Okay, so far we have learned about linear equations in standard form and linear equations in slope-intercept form. We're now going to look at the third type of linear equations, and that is point-slope form. Okay, the point-slope form equation is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You need to memorize that form of the equation, just like you learned y equals mx plus b and ax plus by equals c. This is the third type of linear equation. X1, y1 is a given point, and m is the slope of the line. It's very easy to use this form of a linear equation to solve problems when you're given one point and the slope of the line, and that's what we're going to look at now. Okay, to use the equation for number one, we just substitute in the values. So y minus y1 is y minus 5 equals m, which is the slope, negative 3 times x minus x1, which is 1 minus a negative 1. And we need to rewrite that to get rid of the two negative signs. And we just end up with y minus 5 equals negative 3 times x plus 1. That is the point-slope form of the equation for the line that passes through the point negative 1, 5 with a slope of negative 3. Okay. Now you might be given 2 points and you still want to use the point-slope equation. And the first thing that you have to do with that is find the slope of the 2 points. So it's going to be y2, which is 6, minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we end up with 3 over 2, which is our slope. And we now have the slope, and we can use that to put our information into a point-slope equation. I'm going to write the equation using that point and the slope. So it's going to be y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. And there's my point-slope form of a linear equation. Now I could use this other one, the other point, and it would just be the same thing. Y minus 3 equals 3/2 times x minus 0. All right, and I could simplify that and write y minus 3 equals 3/2 x, okay? But it is in point-slope form when you look at this one. Both of these are point-slope form, okay? Now, just to review the 3 types of linear equations that we've looked at. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. Slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. And point-slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? And now that we have 3 different types of linear equations, or 3 different forms of linear equations, the next thing that we're going to do is to be converting from one form to another. So if we look at example 4, we have an equation that's in point-slope form, and they want us to convert it into standard form. So the first thing that I'm going to do with this is to distribute the negative 5. So I have y plus 5 equals negative 5x plus 10. Okay, and now I want to get it into ax plus by equals c form. All right, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, and I end up with y equals negative 5x plus 5. And I need to move my x term to the left side, so I'm going to add to both sides. And I end up with 5x plus y equals 5. We know how to do all of these things and to manipulate equations. Now we're just being asked to manipulate the equation into a particular form. If we look at b, that's familiar. That's written in slope-intercept form, and we need to write it in standard form. So the first thing I'm going to look at is putting my ax and by variables on the same side of the equation. There's more than one way to do this, but I'm going to subtract 3/4 x from both sides. I end up with negative 3/4 x plus y equals negative 5. Now that is in standard form except for one problem. We don't want to have a negative term for our x variable. So what I'm going to do is multiply both sides of the equation, or all three terms, by negative 1, and I end up with 3/4 x minus y equals 5. And there we have my standard form equation. Okay. Now we have an equation in point slope form, and they want us to write it in slope-intercept form. Again, with this, we want to distribute the 1/2, so have y minus 2 equals 1/2 x plus 5/2. Okay? And remember, let's leave these things as improper fractions. It's much easier to work with them if we leave them that way. Now, to get this into y equals mx plus b form, I need to move that negative 2 to the right side of my equation. And I know I'm going to be adding 2 to both sides. But when I add 2 to 5/2, it's much easier if I add fractions. So I have 2, and I want to turn it into a fraction with 2 as my denominator. And I know that 1 times 2 is 2, so I need to multiply 2 times 2, which is 4. And that tells me I'm going to add 4/2 to both sides. Okay, it's much easier if I just do it all as fractions. Y equals 1/2 x plus 9/2. And there I have my slope-intercept form equation. Okay? Now, we have one other example that we're going to look at. Okay, I have a point slope form of an equation for a horizontal line that passes through the point 4, 3. You need to be very careful when you see a problem like this, because there's information in here that's not always easy for everyone to see. But we need to remember that the slope of a horizontal line is 0. So with that information, it's very easy to write this in point slope form. Remember, that's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? So y minus a negative 3, remember that minus a negative is plus, equals 0 times x minus 4. Okay? And we know that 0 times any number is 0. So I end up with y plus 3 equals 0.